This is my first go at school doing it from the smartboard. Typically I do these videos at home. So I am using my new MacBook Pro Air and my broken smartboard. Let's see if this works. I'm going to record it and hopefully it works. So 7th grade material, part 1, find the sum, write your answer in simplest form. 92% of you got this correct. We have two fractions. Whenever we want to combine fractions, we need to first make sure that they have common denominators. And if they have common denominators, we are going to combine their numerators. That negative is attached to the first three, that positive attached to the second three. Negative 3/4 plus 3/4 would absolutely give you 0 4, which simplifies to 0. You cannot leave it as 0/4. You must simplify all fractions. So in simplest form, so 0/4 is not going to be acceptable. You must simplify it to 0. Problem number 2, 71% of you got this correct. We have two numbers. We know that the signs are different. The bigger of the two, we have more negatives than positives. We're always going to take the smaller of the two, not smaller on the number line, but the smaller value, the smaller distance, and we're going to take that from the larger. So we're going to do 1.7 minus 1.23, but Mr. Mac, it looks like this is a negative 1.23 and it has a positive. I'm just taking this value from 1.7. Notice I'm aligning the tenths with the tenths, and since there is no hundredth value in 1.7, I'm going to add a 0. I'm going to take 3 from 0. I can't. I have to borrow. I'm going to take 2 from 6, which is 4, and 1 from 1 is 0, and we get 0.47. However, remember, we have more negatives than positives. So my answer is going to be negative 0.47. We again have two fractions. We first look at those denominators. We are so nice to see that we have like denominators. So we can combine their numerators. Negative 4 and negative 4 makes negative 8/3. You could have left that as your answer. You could have left it as negative 8/3. You also, interesting enough, you could have done 8/3, or you could have even done negative 8/3. You could put it as a mixed number. That mixed number would be negative 2 2/3. No negative must be out in the front. So those are your technically 4 different choices. We again have two numbers. We have double signs right next to each other with nothing separating it. I'm going to combine those. A negative and a negative make a positive. So this value now becomes positive. It doesn't become positive negative 7.8. It takes the place of those two. We're going to take those two and write 1. So that's a horrible 1.74. 1.74. The signs are the same, so we combine and keep the sign, as Mr. Mac would say. So we have 1.74. We again are going to line up the place values. We're adding, because the signs are the same, positive 1.74 and positive 7.18. 8 plus 4 is 12, carry, 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, and you get positive 8.92. Only 82% of you got that problem right. The table shows the change in water level in centimeters of a reservoir for 3 months. Find the total change in the water level for a 3-month period. Write your answers as a fraction or mixed number in simplest form. So, water level, how can water level be negative? Well, you've got this reservoir, which is like a pond, a big pond, and it holds water for a community. Mr. Mac loves doing these things. Watch this, reservoir. So let's look at a picture of a reservoir. Not now. So these are images of reservoirs. Okay, yeah, there's like a dam holds a reservoir of water. Reservoir. That's a weird reservoir. So these are, to me, it always looks like a pond or a lake. This is a reservoir. So it holds a body of water. So that water level can go up and down. It can rise and it can fall. So this is going to be 0. So we call that, other verbiage is sea level. So at sea level, so after a month, the water level goes down 1 2/7. So this sign, remember when we talked about numbers have 2 values, a number, all numbers have a direction and a distance. So when we have -1 2/7, the direction is going to be down, and that distance is 1 2/7. When we have 1 2/3, that direction is up, and that distance is 1 2/3. So let's take a look and see how this is going to move. All right, I'm going to move this sea level. We're going to go from 0. Let's do this. So we start at 0. And then after 1 month, we're going to go down 1 2/7. And then from change in water level. And then month 2, it's going to go up 1 2/3. So where is that compared to 1 2/7? So it's going to go up 1 2/3. And then from there, it's going to go up 1. Okay? So let's put it on the right side. So this is down, this is up, and this is up. So it wants to know the total change in the water level for the 3-month period. Total change in water level. So it changed, total change. I'm assuming it's going to want to know each of those distances. This is kind of hard. I can understand why. 42%. Table shows, find the total change in the water level. Yeah, so I want to know each of those movements. So 1 2/7 plus 1 2/3 plus 1. So I'm going to change these to improper fractions. That's 7 8 9/7. This is 3 4 5/3. And this is technically 1/1. So 7 3 1, what's our common denominator? 21. And 7 goes into 21 3 times. 3 times 9 is 27. That's an equivalent fraction. All I did was 9/7 equals how many 21sts? Times 3 times 3, 27. 3 goes into 27 7 times 5 is 35. 1 goes into 21 times 1 is 21. So my water level change, if I add those all up, because now we have like denominators, is going to be 27 plus 35 plus 21. That's 48 and 35, which is 13, 83 21 centimeters. That's the travel. That's how much water, find the total change in the water level for the 3-month period. So for the 3-month period, not after the 3-month period. So that's why I added those. And I want my answer, write your answer as a fraction or a mixed number, as long as you're reduced. 83 over 21, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 83, 3 doesn't go into it, 2 doesn't go into it, 4 doesn't go into it, 5 doesn't go into it, 6 doesn't go into it, maybe 7, no, not 7, 8, definitely not, 9, no, 10. So that's how I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it as 83 over 21. You could make it into a mixed number, but if it's acceptable being improper, fraction or mix. It'll be interesting if they consider a fraction an improper fraction, if that would be okay. Well, I'm going to leave it like that. We'll see. At 4 p.m., the total snowfall is 2 centimeters. At 7 p.m., the total snowfall is 12 centimeters. What is the mean hourly snowfall? Write your answer in simplest form as a fraction. So what we do is we do the total, average is the total divided by the number of hours. So total snow divided by number of hours. That's centimeters per hour. So it accumulated 10 centimeters, 2 centimeters, 12 centimeters. The total snow at 4, the total snowfall is 2. And then, and how many hours? 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 3 hours. All right, what is the mean hourly snowfall? Write your answer in simplest form as a fraction or mixed number. Well, it's going to be 10/3 centimeters per hour. Or you can have 3.3 repeating. I don't think you can do repeating signs on that big ideas. You can do 3 1/3 centimeters per hour. Because if you have 3 hours, that's going to give you 10 inches. If it's falling at 3 1/3 for 3 hours, gets you those 10 inches, 10 centimeters, sorry. Centimeters per hour? Centimeters per hour? I like that. I think that's the correct answer. Write the fraction as a decimal. So please do not use your computer, your calculator. We're going to divide. This is how we convert fractions to decimals. 5 goes into 3, no. 5 goes into 36. 7 times. Subtract, bring down the 1, put the decimal point, add a 0, bring down the 0. 5 goes into 10 2 times. 7.2 is the fractional answer, the decimal value for that fraction. As easy as that. Find the product, write your answer as a fraction or a mixed number in simplest form. When we are multiplying fractions, and especially when we have a mixed fraction, we have to convert it to an improper fraction. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4/3, and then we put the negative. We don't do 3 times -1 plus 1 is -2. Remember, signs just show direction. So 1 1/3 would be equal to 4/3, and it's negative. And we're going to multiply it by -5 6. Now I'm going to put the negative somewhere. 5 6. We want to cross cancel if we can. Do not, I'm going to write it in red, do not give me 20 over 18, then reduce it to 10 over 9. That is such a lazy person's way. We are going to cross cancel. You would have -4/3 times -5 6, and you are going to cross cancel the 6 and the 4. What number goes into 6 and 4? 2. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 goes into 6 3 times. Now nothing else cancels, and now we're going to multiply across. Numerator, -2 times -5 gives you +10. +3 times +6. What? +3 times +3 is 9. So 10/9 is your answer, or 1 1/9. I wouldn't convert. I would just keep it as an improper fraction. There is nothing improper about an improper fraction. We have a decimal, -1.1 times 5.4. We're just going to do 5.4 times 1.1. We do 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 5 is 5. We're going to move a place value, and 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 5 is 5. We're doing 1 times 1, 1 times 5 to get the top numbers. Then we move a decimal. So now, once we do this, this x is not an x, it's a 0. 9, 5. Now we count the number of decimal places. We have 1 decimal place, 2 decimal place. So we take this decimal point, 1, 2, and that's where we're going to leave it. So my answer is going to be 5.94. You should know how to multiply decimals. Now, That was just multiplying the numbers. Now we look at the problem as a whole. What's a negative times a positive? Is going to be negative. Don't forget that. I will be honest, Mr. Mack almost forgot it. So my answer is negative 5.94. Fractions. Now we have to notice that we're dividing. We can't divide fractions. So we keep, switch to multiplication, and flip, I think is the way, Miss Poole. Miss Scrupa. Miss Poole? Poole. Miss Poole. Scrupa? Poole. Miss Poole. Mr. Mack's brain just melted. Mrs. Poole, yeah. Can we cross cancel anything? Nope, no common factor from numerator or denominator. So we're going to multiply. Notice I moved that negative somewhere. Negative. Hello, math. Negative 28 over 45. I know that this is in simplest form because there's no number that can be cross-canceled. So I know that I can't reduce that fraction by any common factor because there are no common factors here. Write your answer as a fraction in simplest form. Just don't forget the negative. All right. We can look at this problem just straight up, and I know that my answer is going to be a positive value. So I'm going to get rid of those signs and not worry about it, and I have 8.8 divided by 3.2. And it says write your answer as a decimal. Okay, so it doesn't do me any benefit of keeping it as a fraction. Now, I could do some work to make my multiplications a little bit easier, my divisions a little bit easier. That's equivalent to 88 over 32, and I know that 8 goes into both of those. 8 goes into 88 11 times, and 8 goes into 32 4 times, and it's much easier to divide 4 into 11 than maybe this hot mess. So if you can make math a little bit easier, let's go for it. So 4 goes into 11 2 times, that's 8. 11 minus 8 is 3. I'm going to add my decimal point. I'm going to bring down a 0. And 4 goes into 30 7 times. That's 28. I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to add a 0 and bring it down. And 4 goes into 20 5 times. So the decimal value is positive 2.75. We don't have to write the positive, and good, 91% of you got that right. But I think you got it right because you used the calculator. That doesn't tell me you know how to do that. Number 12, evaluate. Oh, I love this problem. So first things first, we have orders of operations. We have to simplify this before we do this division. This is technically a vinculum. So this problem really reads negative 4/3 divided by, and you have the quantity of 1/5 plus 1. That's really what that says. And so I got to add 1/5 to 1, and yeah, you could write 1 1/5, but that's not really going to help you. It's much more conducive if we make that 6/5, and then we have to convert the division to multiplication. We keep, switch to multiplication, and flip the fraction. Can we cross cancel? Yes, we can. Don't multiply first. See if you can simplify first. And we are going to get negative 10/9. Negative 10/9. Have I already had that answer? I think I've had that solution already. Write it as a fraction or a number in simplest form. Negative 10/9 is reduced. I think we've had negative 10/9 already as an answer. An online retailer allows customers to rate items on a scale from -5 to +5. An item received the scores below. 0, -1, 1, blah, 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 blah. Oh, those are my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 scores. Find the mean. the mean equals the sum of the numbers over the number of numbers. So if we add all these up, 0 plus negative 1.25 plus negative 0.75 plus 4.5 plus negative 0.25 plus negative 4.25 plus negative 1.5. Wow, those are a lot of negative scores. Divided by 7, because that's the number of numbers. Let's do, oh goodness. Let's do this. Because, hey, what are you doing? Group, ungroup. That's not a very good ungroup. Let's ungroup. Why aren't you working? There you go. Now let's take all. I swear this smartboard is going to drive me crazy. Group. Let's move those over there. Let's move oh my goodness. Let's move this down a little bit. Let's move this down a little bit. Let's move these. Oh, stop it. Let's move this. That's much better. Let's group. Now, that looks like a map. I'm running out of space. That's my problem. That was my whole problem in the first place, was I didn't have enough space to put this whole big sum. All right, that looks not too bad. Now let's move it up a little bit. I know, thank you for your patience. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers. Yep, we have negative 1.25, negative, how am I adding all these up together? So my negatives are 1.25. I have negative 0.75. I have negative 0.25. I have negative 4.25. And I have negative 1.5. And I have one positive review, 4.5. So I'm going to add up all these negatives. That's going to be, these two makes 2. That's 2.25. That's 6.5. That's 7.5 and 8. So negative 8 and positive 4.5 leaves me with negative 3.5 over 7. So what does it want it in? Find the mean score. Write your answer as a decimal. So I'm going to convert this to a decimal, negative 3.5 over 7. That's negative 0.5, folks. That's kind of interesting. So many negative numbers. So I knew that 3.5 was half of 7. So I knew it was going to be negative 1/2, which is negative 0.5. Number sense, you better start recognizing, knowing your numbers, knowing your fractions, all that stuff, adding all those. That's 2, 6.5, 6.25, 6.5, 7.5, 8. Yeah, that's right. And subtract add 4 to that. That's negative 3.5. Yeah. So the mean score was negative 0.5. That one positive score did wonders for all those other negative scores. Simplify the expression. When we simplify, when we combine, we're going to combine like terms. We have negative 1/4 x and positive 1/2 x. We have a constant of negative 1 and negative 12. So when we combined the x's, the x-ray machines, I have negative 1/4 x plus 1/2 x. I have to get common denominators. and that is 2/4 x, so that leaves me with 1/4 x, and then when we combine -1 and -12, that makes -13. So I have 1/4 x minus 13. Here, we're subtracting two binomials, so this negative has to be distributed into there. That's probably why many of you got this wrong. So in actuality, you have 4/5 x minus 2 minus 1/5 x plus 1, because that -1 outside, there's an invisible -1 that you have to distribute. It wants the opposite of everything in here. The opposite of positive 1/5 x is -1/5. The opposite of -1 is positive 1. And now we're going to combine like terms. You have 4/5 x minus 1/5 x. You have -2 plus 1. So that gives me 3/5 x minus 1 is our answer. 50% of you got that wrong. Somehow, 74% of you got this problem right. So we again have to do multiplication. We can't combine the items inside the parentheses. 6x minus 2 cannot be simplified. And we have a term outside multiplying, so we have to distribute both of those terms. Distribute that multiplication to both of those terms. You have 1/2 times 6x plus 1/2 times -2. A lot of students would write minus 1/2 there. They would write minus 1/2 there because of this negative. No, that negative is attached to the 2. So that negative better be attached to the 2. 1/2, and then we have plus 10x, which is not affected by the 1/2 because it's not in the parentheses. Half of 6x is 3x. Half of -2 is -1 plus 10x. And now we want to combine like terms. They have the same variable to the same power, and that's going to make 13x minus 1. When we write it in standard form, variables come before constants. 13x minus 1. 74% of you got that right somehow, but got the prior ones wrong. This is another interesting factoring out. So when we have 1/3 x plus 1/3, the common factor is 1/3, but remember, factors are products. So if I look at 1/3 x as 1/3 times x, and then I have 1/3 times 1, because that's a product, we now see that we have a common factor, a common number that is divisible into both of them. They both share the 1/3. That's why they have this. So if I remove that, it's a reverse distribution. If I take it out, I'm left with x plus 1. Many of you probably just did x. Many of you probably just wrote this. But if I distribute that out, I only get 1/3 x. And where's my 1/3? I need that place value. So if I redistribute it back out, I got 1/3 times x is 1/3 x, and 1/3 times 1 gives me that other 1/3 place. It's a place value. It's holding the space of that. So the answer is, what's going to be in the box? What's in the box? Inside the box technically is x plus 1. That is your answer, not 1/3. They already provided that. They want to know what is inside of that box, what's inside that parentheses. So the answer was this. Tricky. Oh, I like this problem. X over 15 plus 1/3 equals 4/3. There's lots of different ways to do this. First way is, let's subtract 1/3. Well, let's get rid of things being added and subtracted first. We're left with x over 15 equals 3/3, or we can simplify that. X over 15 equals 1. Let's isolate the variable. 15 is dividing by x. Inverse of dividing by 15 is multiplying by 15, and we get x equals 15. That's one technique that you can use. The other technique is x over 15 plus 1/3 equals 4/3. We can multiply everything. Let's get rid of those fractions. If we multiply everything by a common denominator, which is 15, that gives me x. This gives me 5. And this gives me 20. And we got rid of it, and then we can subtract 5, and we get x equals 15. It's a nice, confident way of knowing your fractions, how to get rid of fractions. And we're just distributing, multiplying everything, this entire equation. We're creating an equivalent equation. X plus 5 equals 20 is an equivalent equation to this fractional equation. Number 19, we talked about this in class, but we can continue. So we're going to isolate the variable. Just because it's an inequality doesn't mean that we change the way that we do this. And if I needed to graph those solutions, I show where 0 is. There's 9. Since it's greater than or equal to, I'm going to have a closed circle because I want to include the solution, and items greater than are going to go to the right. So I would use this little doodad, and I'd put it over the 9, and I think it automatically snaps to the right. So we need to remember that when we have equal to, it's going to be a closed circle for including. When we have something like this, 3x is greater than 21, we're going to divide by 3. Just like any equation, it's an inequality, and you have x is greater than 7. Since it doesn't have an equal sign, here's my graph, 0, 7. It's going to be an open circle because we're not including 7 is not a solution, and greater than is going to go to the right. So if I was going to use one of these, I would use that little symbol, and I'd do it over the 7 going to the right. If you add stuff and you want to get rid of it, you're going to have to use this little trash can, or I think if you click it, it has a trash can that comes up that you can click then too. But that's what it is. Sounds good. Your variable should come first because your variable stands for the solutions. The solutions are greater than 7. If you have this, 7 is less than x, now it's a little bit weirder. 7 is less than your solutions, and it's way harder to graph. A lot of students put your variable over there, and then they think that this is an indicator of the direction you go. Not the case. And only the case when your variable comes first because it represents the solutions. That's it. And this is all 7th grade material. Material that you should be proficient at after completing 7th grade. And if you were rusty at things, then you need to put some time in and focus on those places you're rusty. Have a great one.